Annyeonghaseyo, welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, three American romance novelists discussing all things K-romance from a writer's lens. We fangirl over our favorite actors and actresses, talk up our trope addictions, and nerd out on K-drama deep dives. We'll throw in a few K-pop and K-skincare recs for good measure, because why not ride the Hallyu wave all the way to shore? So grab some tteokbokki and listen to your new favorite unease.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
So we are back together, which is always nice. It was fun last week, I understand, having a guest come on.
Sarah was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome, and I am sorry I missed it and missed her, but I was in Las Vegas. And yeah, I wanted to just talk about it just a little bit because Las Vegas is a really weird place, and I don't gamble. I don't gamble, nor do I like male strippers. So it was like, okay, let's do this. And I was there for 5 days, which is a long time to be in Las Vegas.
That's like 3 weeks.
It is. Yeah, it felt like it.
For real.
So one thing I did, because you know me and I like to ask questions, is everywhere I went, I found myself asking the same question, which is, has anyone ever had sex here? So I'd be in the Uber, and I'd be like, has anyone ever had sex in the Uber? The driver was like 5 times. Then we went to this other place, and we were like, yeah, no, totally. And he's like, one time my favorite was, he was like, hey, don't be doing that back there. And they were like, oh, sorry. I was like, if you're going to do it, you don't apologize. Like, this isn't a big car. It's like a Corolla.
They're like bumping his seat as he's driving.
Yeah, totally. And then the other place was this like blackout restaurant. Like you go and it's pitch black and you eat in the pitch black. It was a 7-course vegan dinner in the
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
It was really fun. They serve you with like night vision. So of course I'm like, has anyone ever tried to like fuck in the restaurant? And she's like, oh, I found underwear before. But
can you imagine at the end of the night when they like turn on the lights and stuff like that, like what they must see?
Yeah.
Oh, they run a black light over the carpet.
Somebody's just like, oh, I was going to get real gross. I was like, I'm just going to get real gross. Sorry. I was like, someone's like, I want some extra cream on my pasta. Sorry. So anyway. So all that to say that, like, yes, creepy stuff happens in Vegas. And then I realized that maybe someone now feels like they have a creepy story about me. So we stayed at the Bellagio in this, like, suite because it was cheaper to, like, have 4 of us in this big room. And my friends were all wanting to go shopping. And I got an Oculus that I brought to Vegas to work out with because we're also doing a family fitness challenge where we have to do 30 minutes of cardio every day for 60 days. And I am not going to be the one to break the chain on the family fitness challenge. So I was like, I got to go back and work out. When I got back, the room was still messy and it was like 3 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, dang. And then the door knocks and like housekeeping comes in. And I'm like, shit, man, like I only have like an hour to work out. And I don't want to work out like in the room while like the lady is trying to like clean the room because like that's weird for her and me. So I just decided to make it much weirder. So I was very flustered and very focused on what I wanted to do. And where we were staying had 3 bathrooms. Like that's how big the suite was. And one of the bathrooms had like a whirlpool tub and was really big. And I was like, ma'am. I was like, ma'am, I'm going to go into this bathroom. Please don't come in. And I'm like, and you make trust me, it didn't.
No matter what you hear, no matter what you hear, do not come in.
I did, and it didn't occur to me because I was so flustered. So I was like, I'm going in this bathroom. I'm gonna shut the door. Please don't come in. I'm like, you may hear some weird stuff, but it's totally fine. And that was all I said. And then I went in the bathroom and shut the door. And I was telling my dad this today. He's like, why didn't you just tell her you were going to go work out? I'm like, well, that felt weird. He's like, that, what you said was much worse. So I was in there totally like doing like a rather vigorous workout. And it was hot because it was like a bathroom with like hot lights. So I was all like, and then like sometimes because you've got like your Oculus headset on, I was like punching and sometimes I'd like hit the wall. So I'd be like, like, I'm sure she was like, I literally don't even know what's happening in there. So now somebody's telling a creepy Vegas story, and it was just me working out and sweating in my underwear in the bathroom. And that's how crazy I got in Vegas. That's like the pinnacle of my craziness.
Wait, you were working out in just your underwear?
Yeah, my brown underwear.
And your Oculus, that's it.
And
that's what you were wearing.
Well, it was real hot when I went in there. Like, the heat lamps were on. And I was like, I'm going to get too hot. So I, stripped down.
Yeah, I peed. All I keep thinking about is the Hangover, the movie, and really you were in there with your tiger.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what she thought was going on in there?
I mean, she's probably seen some pretty weird shit.
Yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking, and so that's where and I don't know why. I am awkward, and I think I forgot just. Because sometimes when I'm just living my life these days, I forget, I have an awkward past. So hanging out with high school friends, which is why I went to Vegas, I was reminded of so much of my awkwardness as a younger person. And, how I, my hallmark move was, to like a boy. And the way I would, show him my affection was to, never speak to him. And then, get brought out on dates and just sit in absolute silence. Which is why now I overcompensate by writing everything out, because I will never sit in silence again.
Okay. Can I ask also, did you also, when you told her, no matter what you hear, don't come in, were you also holding the headset, while you're saying this?
Yes, probably. Yes, I think so.
Or you just had it
but I was dressed.
You just had this weird white case.
But I did have clothes on. It wasn't
because she's going to watch some VR porn in there.
Yeah, I know. She was just this older, nice lady, and she just she didn't even blink an eye, which is why it didn't hit me that it was as weird. I was just kind of okay, go in, and then I'm oh, I hope she doesn't think it's weird that she heard me. And then today as I was telling my dad about it. It hit me all of a sudden oh my God, I really sounded like a really creepy person.
That's incredible.
Well, I think you should be honored that you are probably someone's creepy Vegas story, because you made your mark.
Yep, I did not have sex in an Uber, but I did creep out, do an Oculus in the bathroom, heavy breathing.
That is so funny. I'm just picturing that, and I'm the sounds
yeah.
Because I'm just down the hallway when Neil works out in the morning, and it's it's weird sounding, and there are plenty of times where he's heavy breathing, going oh, I just can't.
Yeah, exactly.
And this woman had no idea what you were
I swear, if I do a really vigorous workout, after a really vigorous track, I'm always going, fuck, catching my breath, but
maybe she thought I had the cast of Hospital Playlists in there and we were getting it down, because I guess that's gonna be my segue. My segue is
look at your segue.
That's your segue. I mean,
that's a bad segue.
I would say a better segue would be I sometimes sing along while I'm working out.
Oh, that's sweet.
Just yeah. Hospital Playlist.
Honestly, neither of these were our best, but let's keep moving forward. So in 1999, 5 very different students embarked on their med school journey and became fast friends. Now, 21 years later, they work together at ULJ Hospital, where by day, and night too, they save lives as liver, heart, brain, and pediatric surgeons, as well as bringing bebés into the world through obstetrics. And when they can fit it in, the gang loves to eat and argue together, and most importantly, play music, which they do once a week when they're eating and arguing together. So Hospital Playlist is the brainchild of the Reply series and Prison Playbook dream team of producer Shin Won-ho and screenwriter Lee Woo-jung. So while this drama is more about the emotional lives of the doctors than the surgeries, although Megan might dispute this, the Hospital Playlist team spent 4 years preparing for season 1 by meticulously consulting advisors in all the hospital departments featured. In fact, advisory doctors were there every step of the way to provide advice on how actors should wash their hands, enter the operating rooms, and every gesture taken during the surgeries. So I felt like that kind of attention to detail really showed for me. Look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know it, but it seemed real credible to me. So
100%.
Same.
I mean, what do I know? But it seemed pretty good. And apparently doctors overall validated it. But as always, we're going to kick this off by discussing the drama without spoilers. And, we're also going to just be discussing both seasons of the drama. There is a Hospital Playlist 1 and 2. But I feel what? I don't have the mental gymnastics ability to be able to separate out all the plots by myself. So we're just talking about it as a whole.
But we are doing a two-parter.
Yes, we are going to do a two-parter because there is kind of just like a lot to talk about 2 seasons where every episode's like, 2.5 hours?
Oh my gosh.
No, but
yes.
like 2 hours basically. All right, so let's get into it. Amy, to kick things off, let's leave Wang Shimi Station. And how do you feel about medical dramas as a whole? And how did this drama stack up?
So medical dramas are not usually my go-to, but I've given them a whirl over the years. So going way back to the 90s with ER, I started that one in the beginning, but I did not stick with it for the whole 15 seasons. Yes, 15. Oh. Same with Grey's Anatomy. I was into it early on because of the excellent romance trope with Meredith, a resident, having a one-night stand with Derek, who she doesn't know is her attending physician. So that's like awesome, like for my romance-loving soul. It's a great setup. But y'all, this series has been going since 2005. And it's still going. And the only way to keep things quote-unquote interesting in a show that lasts for that long is to break people up and kill people off. And for me, that gets old real quick, which is one of the reasons why I love K-drama. A story arc lasts 16 to 20 episodes for longer dramas, or 12 to 13 for shorter dramas, and we're done. We get a satisfying conclusion without having to force romances apart or kill our beloveds. So when Hospital Playlist was getting a lot of hype, I was like really wary because what I knew of Western medical dramas had turned me off. But Leah assured me that I would love this one, and she's usually right. So for me, this drama was, as far as like stacking up, I mean, it blew Western medical dramas out of the water for me, which is a good thing, right? Because for me, this wasn't really, most of the setting is inside the hospital. That didn't really faze me. For me, this drama was a group of friends that I never wanted to leave, and I didn't have to watch any of them come to horrific ends. So for me, it was a very enthusiastic thumbs up for the drama as a whole, and as a medical drama, which normally isn't my bag, but now it is because it's Hospital Playlist.
Well, do you remember like the chokehold that ER had on like America? Like, I feel like,
yeah.
Oh my God,
it was
90s?
George Clooney and Noah Wiley. Like, come on.
ER in the 90s was everything.
See, I never watched it.
They did crossover episode with Friends, like where they had George Clooney and Noah Wiley were on an episode of Friends as doctors, because there was a lot of hype. But here's also the thing. I started, so this is getting like probably too into my college past, but it was my junior year of college, and I was studying abroad in Scotland, and I lived in a 6 flat with 5 other female residents there, and only one person in our 6 flat had a TV, and she was able to get, like, it started, I think, a year later in the UK. And so we started watching the first season of ER and, like, Friends together, I think. But for me, it was, like, super fun because I was seeing this popular American show that I'd never seen before while I was overseas. And so it was, like, this connection to home type thing. And then, yeah, of course, I was hooked because you're right. It had, like, a chokehold and stuff like that. But, like, I can't stand the things that you have to do to sustain a show for so long. Right? And then when actors want to leave the show, it's always got to be like super dramatic. Like when Anthony Edwards wanted to leave the show, Dr. Mark Green, Goose from Top Gun. I'm going to spoil Top Gun and ER for you, but too bad, so sad. Those are like decades freaking old. Yeah. But like they killed off Goose, on ER, and I tuned back in because I was already off the show. I tuned back in just to watch Dr. Green die. And then I was like, yeah, I don't need this in my life anymore. Like, I want something that's going to make me feel good at the end. And that is 100% what Hospital Playlist did. I'm sorry for all you ER fans out there and Grey's Anatomy fans. Like, no shame to you for, like, loving what you love, right? We don't yuck anybody's yum here, but it's just not for me. A series that lasts almost 20 years is not for me.
All right. So, Megan, as you were watching, you kept mentioning that there were too many surgeries. Now that you've finished the show and had some time to reflect and digest, how do you feel about this drama?
So I'm not a medical drama person. The only one I ever watched and truly enjoyed was House, because the main character was extremely compelling. And I liked how each show was like really sectioned out into like its own medical mystery. It was very, very episodic. I mean, there was like overarching plot lines, obviously with some romances and House's drug addiction, but it was a good show. I remember watching that with my husband. We liked it a lot. So as far as Hospital Playlist, I will just say the first episode was like a mess. and I would rewrite it in a heartbeat. And I sort of panicked on Leah and Amy, like, after I watched the first episode, because I was like, guys, what is happening? I don't know if I can watch 24 hours or 24 episodes of this. They were like, I promise it gets better. And it does. It totally calmed down. It focused on the 5 main leads and their friendship, which was the absolute heart of this drama, was their friendships. And so I really enjoyed it. I think I still could have done with about like 75% less surgery footage. But here's the thing. I mentioned this to Amy and Leah in that, so I binged it essentially. Like, I kept watching it. I watched like an episode a night. Sometimes I watched 2 episodes. And I just felt like, I don't know if it's really a bingeable drama like that. Because it's not, obviously there's no like overarching external plot that's like really heavily driving the plot forward, which is fine. Like, a drama doesn't need that. But I'm just saying, from like a binging drama standpoint, it's not like the best. And I really feel like because I think some of the hospital stuff started to get repetitive because I was watching it so frequently. So I really feel like if I was watching when it aired and I watched it, I would tune in like every Thursday, I think I would have liked it even more, because I think it would have been more like I was returning to see old friends. Because that's truly what it felt like watching this drama. You just feel like you're tuning in and watching your friends do like good stuff to each other, saving lives, being kind. I mean, really, it's like a truly wholesome drama, and I really loved it. And I actually, I do love that. I'm glad they only did 2 seasons or whatever. But I would say, like, I would tune in to watch these guys do their thing, like, more often, because it was nice. It felt good to watch the drama. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I watched it and I would end every episode and I would just like feel good. That like ending, like, that like,
oh, I love it. I know.
Yeah. Like, even if they ended it kind of on a cliffy, you like knew things were going to be okay, because it's Hospital Playlist. Like, they didn't mess around and do mean stuff, anyway. So yes.
I watched season 1 in more of a binge because season 2 had already started, and then I got to watch season 2 pretty much live. So I get where you're coming from in that, like, when you were watching it every day, you're like, man, a lot of people need liver transplants. Like,
right.
A
it
lot.
Was like, yeah, and it was like the number of times, again, it started to feel repetitive, and I don't think it would have if I was tuning in.
Right,
like, once
totally.
Like the number of times that I was like, oh, he's scrubbing up and he's gonna hit that button with his crock again, like, okay, this is what's happening. You know what I mean? And again, that's not, I'm not being mean about the drama, because I loved it. I think it was just the way I watched it. All I have to say is, like, if I wore Crocs without socks, my feet would stink. So I just had to talk about that, because a couple times they were like in their bare feet in Crocs, and I was like, oh man, I could never do that. I could never do that. I am gross. They were just clumping around without socks on. I was like, I'm jealous. Like, do they not get feet sweat?
Can you just wash Crocs though?
Yeah, you can, really.
Okay.
I mean, they're just like plastic shoes. You can just wipe them out.
I would be sweating so much my feet would be slipping, because I have like a foot sweat problem.
And you'd also
We're learning things about Megan we didn't know. So Megan has super sexy feet.
Maybe you need to go to a hospital and get that looked at.
I know.
I don't think your feet are meant to
Check out a sexy podiatrist.
Yeah.
So, Leah, seeing as slice of life dramas are your jam, and you already love the Reply series, what makes Hospital Playlist a top drama for you?
Well, it was definitely the surgery aspect. No, I'm kidding.
And the singing.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing: is I have never really been. I liked House. I was into House. I mean, I fell off of it, but like I liked it enough when it was out. But beyond that, I've just never been attracted to watching. I've never watched like ER. I've never watched Grey's Anatomy. I watched 1 episode of Scrubs, and I think it was probably the most single painful television.
Oh, Scrubs! I did watch Scrubs. I forgot about Scrubs. I love Scrubs.
Yeah, you would. No.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Damn. I meant I gotta go in the bathroom and do some working out quietly. No, I meant it because you like Friends too.
I know, but that's also still a dig.
I just mean it with like some respect. The way you would. I'm sorry, I'm crying. Amy, I'm so sorry.
So this will be my last Afternoona Delight podcast, everybody. It's been really fun.
My face is red. Oh my god. Megan and I were talking about how if we were a K-pop band that Amy, I don't think Amy was on today because she was working. We were talking about how
I logged onto Slack and there was like 175 messages and I'm like, I have a job.
Yeah. I mean, allegedly I do too. No, this was during my lunch, but I was talking to Megan about how this is a non sequitur, but like she's just finished My Name and has been having to was like, I need a palate cleanser. And I was like, you know what? One of my go-to palate cleansers is watching K-pop videos, just interviews and stuff. And I really love watching, my jam is watching RM at BTS, organizing BTS. And as I was watching it last night and watching be exasperated and trying to organize folks, I was like, Amy's our RM.
She is our exasperated leader who's just trying to keep us in line.
And gets no respect.
Yeah, right. We give her shit.
As long as you acknowledge the fact that you are the fucking worst.
We are. We apologize. I apologize. I respect you. I don't like Scrubs, though, at all. And it is the single worst. My friend liked it in college, and she was like, let's watch the show. And I remember she turned it on, and I was like, I feel like I'm in, my own... I still can remember the visceral feeling that it gave me. That was, a sensory feeling of, no. I reject
fair.
this. So sorry for, this happy sitcom that apparently yucked all over your yum, Amy, and probably a lot of other people's yums. But... bringing it all back to, this was not something, so Hospital Playlist, I was not seeking out for Hospital. I was also not seeking it out for the playlist aspect because band type of shows or books just aren't it for me either. I just don't really like lyrics and books are my worst nightmare. It's just not my thing. So putting doctors and a band together is 100% you might as well tell me it's 90 hours of 80s synth music with parkour for how much I'm going to want to watch it.
Michael loves to rock.
Yeah, Michael loves to rock. So it's actually really good and it's in my top 3 dramas. And here's why. I think it's because, honestly, this is a very, very quiet drama in many ways, even though it has life or death stakes every episode. And I feel it's just incredibly character driven. And I think that while there's always some external conflict happening in terms of a medical emergency, really the real story here is about the inner transformation of each of these characters and the relationships between the characters. And so, when a story is more heavily plot driven, it's kind of the character is always making choices. And I feel in a more character-driven story, it's more about how the character has arrived at making some of their choices, if that makes sense. And so I feel this was just very much hyper-focused on the internal and interpersonal struggles of the characters and how they showed up for their work and how they showed up for each other and for their colleagues. And I really liked it because I felt the emphasis was on developing these very realistic, flawed, ultimately superhuman characters. And I felt we could all find aspects of ourselves or people that we know and love in these characters, and as a result, connect really emotionally. And they all felt super good friends and buddies. Just like you guys.
I agree. I mean, honestly, I finished watching it. It made me want to be a better person. I'm I want to, you know what I mean? Because they were good people and good friends.
You could start by treating me better.
I know. I didn't make the script.
You would.
Puts that on a pillow.
You would.
It wasn't meant to. See, look. Yeah, sorry. I'm just an asshole.
I love how you tried to qualify it by insulting me more.
Yeah, so really, I was trying to be less of an asshole, yet apparently still very much an asshole. That's the...
All right. We like what we like.
We like
That's
what
fine.
we like. It's fine. Except Amy no longer likes me. Okay.
So everyone, Which of the 5 main besties is your significant other type and why?
Ik-Jun. He is my favorite, and I mean, it started that way and it never wavered. He's the lovable, dorky single dad who is also hilarious, loyal, romantic in the most subtle ways, and can fucking belt out a Bon Jovi tune like whoa. And for him and him only, Crocs are my sexuality. Anybody else, especially Megan with bare feet. Yeah, especially Megan with her sweaty feet. And I should also mention, like, he is also like a very good-looking dude, but like just the character himself is just like he's a lovable goof, right? And I love a guy who can make me laugh, and I laughed even when it got serious. And there were a lot of times he wasn't just the goof, right? Like he could be totally sincere and all of that too, but it was like every single episode he gave me a reason to smile. And I love that about him. And I, for 24 episodes, loved him.
And the best dad ever.
Yes.
Oh, and his kid. Oh, my God. His kid, Uju. And I said, I want his son's training chopsticks. He was holding them in the drama, and it was so cute. And I'm like, I want them. So, okay, I'm going to say Junwon, the heart surgeon. I just really loved him. He's blunt, extremely good at his job, and he has this kind of like hard exterior but extremely mushy center in that he doesn't like to be alone, and he's a great boyfriend. So no matter how stressed he was with his job, he never took it out on Iksun or started a fight. And like, I'm an very emotionally volatile person, so I need someone steady, and that's Junwon. I don't know, just throughout the whole drama, he just really got me. There were some really amazing characterizations in this show. One of the things I love most is, so when Junwon had like, he was in surgery, because I did watch surgeries, okay? And there was like a problem, like something was going on, and he would stand there, kind of hunch his back and like cross his arms and just stare. And I love that little bit of characterization. I don't know. I just love that. And I love the fact that he, again, was very like blunt, and he kind of was like standoffish to people at work, but yet his friends knew that he didn't like to be alone. Like he lived with Jongwon, and he was like panicking when he thought Jongwon was going to move out. And I just love those small details about his character. And all the characters had really cool details like that.
I don't remember if it's in our first or second episode of Hospital Playlist where I brought him up, but I call him, he's a marshmallow inside. Like, he'll never show it
totally,
except to his closest friends. And I love that about him, that he could have this sort of cold facade, but that wasn't who he was at all.
I loved him a lot. So anyway, but I would say that was, yes, I love the character, but that's also kind of my type, I would say.
So I think that like my type is probably, I mean, I have many types, so it's hard, but for this, I'm going with Jungwon, because I think I'm really attracted to competency, and I also do love men who are great with children, but I tend to also just, not through conscious choice, I also tend to like highly competent men who struggle with imposter syndrome. And that is like not a conscious choice. It's just been something that I tend to have like found over and over. And I think because a lot of highly competent people do have imposter syndrome. And so, you know, when he was constantly like crying to his brother, you know, being like, I need to quit and I suck, even though he's like the most amazing doctor ever, I was like, oh yeah, like I have been there in my own relationship. Like, this is just like this feels familiar to me. Somebody who's like very good at what they do and being incredibly hard on themselves. And then also just like, I had to go with him ultimately, because look, he had to choose between God and the priesthood versus love. And that's never, ever not going to be crack to me, because like the priest trope in a romance novel is always crack to me. Like, that is the one thing you could probably tell me that would make me pick up any romance novel and at least give it a whirl, is if there's some sort of priest element in it. I'm sorry, I am a former Catholic dirty birdie apparently, but I don't even like want it for like dirtiness. I just really like this conflict of like God and this calling and this like path to celibacy that's like somehow inflicted, and then what happens when like you fall in love on it. So the fact that like we were given that in his character in season 1, I was like, oh yeah, I mean 100%.
Right. That's on brand for Leah.
100%.
So, Amy, if you had to be a doctor in one of the specialties, what would you choose? And would you wear Crocs?
So when I wrote my answer to the above question, I didn't even read this one. So I mentioned Crocs, and look at you calling me out on the Crocs. So
We're just sponsored by Crocs.
we're going to get sponsored by Crocs, by Papa John's, by all the things we shit on. They're going to somehow want to pay us because we're giving them visibility. So look, I cannot be a doctor of any sort. I am not good with open wounds, and all of these doctors perform surgery. I chose a profession as far from medicine as I could, which was education and also authoring. But little did I know, moving to an elementary school in the past couple of years, that I would deal with so many bodily fluids despite not being a surgeon. So yeah, no Crocs for me because I'm not going near a stethoscope or a damn scalpel.
So I couldn't do any of it, truly. So I know I kind of bitched about the surgeries in the drama, but one thing this drama showed me that a lot of other, not that I've seen a lot of medical dramas, but the ones I have seen didn't, was just how hard the medical profession works from a day in and day out standpoint. Because this kind of felt more like an everyday slice of life drama. And like every single case wasn't like a sensationalized thing, you know what I mean? So, I mean, sure, some of it was dramatic for the show, but a lot were just like kind of mundane procedures. And we were shown the effort and the emotionally and physically taxing work of the medical professionals. We were definitely shown it rather than told it. And so I really enjoyed that. Like, I'm fortunate not to have many medical emergencies in my life, but it made me remember the night nurse after I gave birth to my first kid, who like single-handedly taught me to breastfeed in a kind and calm way when I was freaking out, like losing my shit. And she was like a grandmother who'd like breastfed 3 kids and then had her, you know what I mean? So I'll never forget her. Her name was Barb, by the way. So shout out to Barb for being the best nurse ever.
So we're just not answering this question, and that's fine. But
No, because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do any of these
like,
jobs.
I don't even want to pretend to be a doctor because I just couldn't.
Yeah.
So I was on it. I answered the question.
You did.
True to myself.
The minute a patient pukes, I'm out. Like I draw the line at puking, and you want me to do it? No way.
I did a first aid class at the university where we had to do like wound care, like traumatic wounds, like if there were like bullet wounds or stabbing. And I was actually very good. I could get my hand way up into the fake piece, or it was actually, we were using like ham hocks, and I was good at that.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing is I have pretty shaky hands, like if you look, and I just like, I realized at a young age I had shaky hands. And so you just don't want me in your brain or your liver or your vagina, like basically. So
yeah.
I could be like maybe a pediatrician, but like not a pediatric surgeon.
Yeah, I have a hard time watching the surgeries. Like I watched the surgeries in hospital pilots because they weren't like overly gory. But yeah, like gore definitely gets to me. So I would be the worst doctor and worst nurse in the world. Like they have to deal with so much, all the fluids, and I'm not here for it.
Maybe radiology.
There you go.
All right. So an ongoing gag in the show is how Ik-jun was always stealing snacks from Jungwon's drawer. Like we saw Ritz crackers going down his gullet and Oreos on the regular. So Megan, what's your go-to work snack?
Definitely cheese and crackers, and then also chocolate. I don't know if I need like the sugar boost. I actually have chocolate sitting right here that I used, that I did not eat for today. So yeah, they're pretty much, there's almost always chocolate on my desk.
So when you say cheese and crackers, do you mean like nice?
Yeah.
Do you mean like a charcuterie board type of cheese and crackers, or are you like just like a sleeve of Ritz and like some Velveeta?
No, I am actually a little picky about my cheese. Like, it's got to be, like, I do actually spend a lot of money on cheese, and I have to have, like, artisanal crackers. Like, I am a little bougie about it, and it can't be, like, anything messy, because then I mess up my keyboard. Because, like I said, I really like pirate booty, but I'm not going to eat that when I'm working.
She's got, like, booty dust all over her fingers.
Yeah, booty dust all over my computer. I already had to get a new keyboard, because I got food in it, and my husband reprimanded me about that. Like, I'm a child.
All right, Leah, who will like this drama?
People with very good tastes. No, I think that, look, you have to kind of be willing to be happy to go along with what is, I think, ultimately more of a quiet drama. Even if there's like stakes in it and there is a lot of life and death scenes, I think overall this is not like, there's not like a big baddie at the hospital who wants to like do bad things and they have to go up against him. And, like, there's not like big external villains or anything like that. So this is good people who are flawed, but ultimately like doing the best they can in the world. And, it's their slice of life. And so I think that people should give it a chance, even if they don't think they like hospital dramas, and definitely get through that first episode. Because I do think the first episode sucks.
It's just messy. It's just like plotting and pacing is off in it.
Yeah, it just felt chaotic.
Yeah.
Well, I think they just don't do a good job of introducing the main cast in the first episode, which is frustrating because the main cast is so good and their friendship is so strong. I just wish I wish honestly the first episode started with them all together, and it doesn't.
No.
It's like some random...
No, and I don't even feel like by the end of the first drama you fully know like who Ik-jun is, like, and he's like the main of like the main characters. Right. I almost feel like he's the main.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a disjointed. So I think if you're willing to settle in, just give it a chance. I think, if you get to like how many do you think? 3, 4? Invest 8 or 9 hours.
I think once you get through episode 2, like, you're in it.
Right. The end of episode 2 was when I was like, okay, I like this now. So yeah, the end of episode 2, I would say. If you get to like 3 or 4 and you're still not feeling it, then okay. But I think you'll really like the characters.
Okay, let's get into our favorite part of every episode, which is our K-pop Rec of the Week. What do you have for us, Megan?
So I'm really excited to recommend this song. It came out like either 8 months to a year ago, but I have recently become very obsessed with it. So it's called Form, and it's by Vanner, which is Vanner. It's a male K-pop group, and they're fairly new. I think they've been around for like 2 years. But like, these are men. Like, the video is very good, okay? They're all wearing like suits, and I'm recommending it in this podcast because there's a very heavy like guitar backing in it. It's just in your face, kind of loud. The rapping's awesome. The one guy yells like "Kaja" at the beginning, which means like let's go, and it's incredible. And he does this like hair move. Anyway, I am obsessed with it. I wish more people heard it because I think they're fairly new and not many people know about them. So yeah, it's called Form by Vanner, and highly recommend the video and the song. And I will put it on our Spotify playlist. So we do want to let you all know that we have a Patreon now. So if you go to patreon.com and search for Afternoona Delight, you'll find us. You can get an extra bonus episode every month. We also hold a live meeting with some of our patrons.
A support group.
Yeah, it's like a K-drama support group. And it's so fun. We had our first one last month. And we post in there all the time. Like, we talk about all kinds of things, have discussions. Even just today, I did a poll on what I should watch next, that kind of thing. So please check us out, join us. We've already have a really great little community, and we just want to grow it. And just for, a list of our episodes, more information about us, our Spotify playlist, you can go to afternoonadelight.com.
So just out of curiosity for the two of you, which couple is your favorite in the drama and why?
I do truly love them all because we love this whole cast, right? But because Ik-jun is my hardcore single dad who wears Crocs crush, I'm going to go with him and Songhwa. The quiet subtlety of their courtship when they don't even realize that they're actually courting. Like, they say they're best friends, but you know that they're going to end up together. Like, it's amazing. And he shows up for Songhwa's biopsy results early in the morning, even after working all night on an emergency surgery. And this is still when they are technically friends. And I love that even when he finally does confess to her and she rejects him, that he doesn't pull away. He stays by her side, even as a friend, until she's ready to put herself out there with him again. Spoiler, she did love him in college, and he rejected her because he knew back then that Suk-young had feelings for her. So it was a tangled mess of feelings, but everyone stayed friends, and eventually Songhwa and Ik-jun found their way back to each other, and it was perfect, and everybody was happy for them, the end.
Okay, so I'm going to mix it up and say Dr. Do and his wife. So I know he's not part of the main cast, but I loved him.
Yeah, love him.
Yeah, loved him. I mean, like, they are goals, relationship goals. Like, they make Instagram posts about each other. They have amazing love and commitment. Dr. Do basically drops all toxic masculinity and tells Junwan how much he loves just sitting with his wife after work and talking over wine rather than like be all cool for school and act like all he wants to do is sit in a man cave alone with beer. Like, I love him. Their whole story really got me, and I love how much they talked out their issues and supported each other through her cancer treatments and pregnancy, which was a lot to throw at these two. Okay, I do want to say that. Goodness gracious, but
and losing
sweet.
their money for their house money.
Oh yeah,
getting scammed out of their house.
But they
money
got it
too.
back.
Yeah, they got it back. But like, yeah,
because it's hospital playlist, so they got
Right.
it back. Like, that's the thing, that you get to a point where you start to like really trust this drama, I think, with your feelings. What is your favorite song from either season and why?
So there's no doubt for me on this, and it's Let's Forget It. And this is a song that was performed in season 2, episode 4. And it's when Junwan is just like deep in his like feels in his misery. Ik-sun has just ended their secret long-standing love affair from England. And he's with the friends, with the band, and they're all just oblivious to his pain because no one knows about this relationship that much. And they don't know, obviously, that it's like Ik-jun's sister. So he's like struggling to keep everything together, and like he's got this like fundamentally broken heart. And I felt like all these emotions just came through crystal clear in his performance. Like Ik-jun sings like the whole opening, and then you see Junwan just come in with like, echoing the lyrics later. And it's just, like, do you guys remember this? Like,
yes, I do.
It really just gets me. And I love the song. I actually have put the song on like almost all my fall playlists. I listen to it all the time. It's also featured in Reply 1988. So sometimes I just feel like me and the PD are like in this like strong alignment on like taste and on certainly the emotional power of this ballad. And like, I don't love lyrics because I don't think that when you repeat lyrics, they just like work as well as like when you hear them sung. But I'm going to read some of them, like the translations, because I think that they are just really sad. And so it's basically like the song's Let's Forget It. So just like forgetting everything. So like forget all the meanings behind the gifts that I gave you for your birthday. Forget the time I confessed to you on that drunken night. Forget how nice it was when we walked together on a snowy day like a movie. Let's forget it now. We must forget it now. And I think it's just like this like acknowledgement of like moments of tenderness, which are now just like too painful to remember because like the coupledom's over. Who hasn't been there? So like for me, it was just like, Junwan, like I just loved the song and I loved him singing it.
I think that it's time that you just admit that you like all the things that you think you don't like.
It's really
because you
true.
are like a walking freaking contradiction in almost all the things you think you hate.
Maybe I should just watch Scrubs, Amy. I think I need to just sit down and watch Scrubs.
I actually don't believe Scrubs holds up, so I mean, I liked it then, but I think there's some stuff that wouldn't fly now. But no, like office romances, office dramas, office anything, The Office.
It's so true.
Right? Like...
I forgot how much she doesn't like The Office.
I love
she
The
loves
Office, but I was like,
she
you're
loves
right,
it, but
you
she
do.
didn't think
You
she
do.
would, so she never watched it, and then did, and was like, "Holy shit!"
yeah, because I just think like people would be like, "Oh, I love office romances," and I was like, "Oh, I just think of like photocopiers. How unsexy." But then realized I love the shit out of office romance. So yeah, I know.
And hospitals
I
and
know.
singing. So there you go. I hate putting lyrics in, but I'm going to read you all some lyrics.
Because they fucking touched my heart.
It is true. She like hates lyrics, and she's like, "I'm gonna read this whole song."
I know.
So I'm not going to get all sentimental here. I'm a simple girl. It doesn't take a lot to get me going. So put the whole band in black, hand Ik-jun an electric guitar, and let him belt out It's My Life by Bon Jovi, and I am a goner.
Yeah, I mean, Bon Jovi is one of my all-time favorites. I sang Living on a Prayer on my 21st birthday karaoke with a Long Island iced tea spilled all over my pants, and I have the pictures to prove it. I mean, just soaking wet pants, belting out Living on a Prayer. So yeah, I mean, I super enjoyed it. It's funny because I watched that episode and then I was somewhere the next day, like a store or something, and the song came over like the loudspeakers, and I got very excited. Like, I like that song, but I feel like Hospital Playlist made me like it.
Right, now it's even more special. And I love...
It is.
So Leah saw the episode a few days before I did, because I was still catching up. I just remember her texting me and being like, do not go on social media. Do not see any spoilers. You're going to die when you see what the song is, because she knows my love for Bon Jovi. And, yep. And when, like, they even mentioned it, like, early in the show, something about It's My Life. And I texted Leah, I'm like, are they going to fucking sing Bon Jovi? Are they?
Yeah, if June's like, it's my life or something, he like alludes to it.
Yes, and I was like, oh my God. So yeah.
So Amy, thoughts on Mama Rosa and her story?
One of the aspects of this drama that I truly loved was how I cared about every single storyline, whether it was the main leads or side characters, and I adored Mama Rosa's relationship with Jong-soo. Their friendship was sweet and funny, and in my heart, they eventually find romance. But you know what? Even if they don't, I think they fulfill each other's lives just as friends. And I loved the portrayal of an older woman and man as fun-loving and capable people who aren't treated as having one foot in the grave. They had their own goals, their own conflicts, and I was truly invested in their stories and wanted more.
I would have watched a whole drama just of them.
Yep.
That is how much I love them.
Yeah.
They had such an amazing relationship. I was like, if that's not my husband and I when we're old, then like I'm smothering him with a pillow. Because that is what I want. They were so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
It just was like,
it was lovely.
Oh my God. Everything about it just made me so happy. Every single time they were on screen, their scenes always ended with them like joking with each other like teenagers. And I love them.
Megan Iksoon, how do you feel about her?
So I didn't really mind her. I think my one thing is I didn't think she quite acted like her age. I think she was like close to 40 or something. She was around my age. And like she'd been in a relationship before. She was experienced. So lying to Junwon and breaking up with him by saying that she had feelings for someone else was just kind of like a low blow. Like it would have been better if she was just like, look, I don't have time for this or something. But to like tell him essentially that she like betrayed him was just kind of stupid. So I get that she had reasons, but they just weren't good to me to hurt him like that. But I think she's a good person. I mean, she's a great sister. She was always there for her brother. She was an amazing aunt. I loved watching her interact with her nephew. So, you know, maybe she's just not that great in relationships, and that's okay. Like, she can't be perfect at everything. But, you know, I really think she kind of, like, learned from that experience, and now that I trust she will be good for Junwon. I think they'll be okay going forward. That's what I have to say about that.
Leah, how is Dr. An Jung-won, a.k.a. Andrea, really just the fourth wife of Gu Dong-mei from Mr. Sunshine?
Well, funny you should ask such a question. So we will be watching Mr. Sunshine. I think we're doing a podcast on it maybe in February, which I'm so excited about because, you know, it's like definitely my top drama. And so this is where, like, you know, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I think I talked in Merry Mate Murder about why, like, there's never been a K-drama character, nor do I think there ever shall be, who has struck me in the mate so hard as Gu Dong-mei. And just, like, the sweaty chest, the blood spatter, the samurai sword, the hair half up, like, the emotional fucking boo-boos, the pain, all of it was just like, you know what? Like, I grew up, like, you know, kind of like the Xennial, like the Gen X, just as it was, like, punching into millennial time, and, like, you know, My So-Called Life and Jordan Catalano, and just kind of like that, like, and I'm just like, this guy, like, got me in all of that, like, adolescent, like, wah! And so, yeah. And then we see him just pop in here as, like, the happiest, sweetest, most sensitive, just, like, life-saving person. And I just felt like it was very hard for me to reconcile in, like, a very good way. And as the more I watched it, I just started to think that, like, so much of what happened to Gu Dong-mei, I think, was, like, a result of, like, his childhood circumstances and just the circumstances of, like, Joseon at the time for people, especially in kind of, like, more of, like, the untouchable classes. And so here he is. He's, like, paid his dues over time, and he's on his fourth life, I think, if we're going back to talk about how Gabaldon had this conceit that, like, everyone lives 4 lives. You know, I think that he has moved into, like, where he made some very hard choices, and a lot of, like, I think he came full circle. I'd like to think, you know, he kind of, like, was rewarded through maybe the early 20th century with, like, some new steps forward. And now here he is, actively saving lives, not taking lives. And really, it's just, like, it's the polar opposite of this other character that I love so much, but I love this new version in just, like, so many ways.
I love that. That's awesome.
I don't know.
I love that. And I have to say, so he's like a puppy in this. He's just like a big puppy.
Oh, I know.
And so I have not seen Mr. Sunshine yet. I am extremely excited, now even more so after seeing him in Hospital Playlist. But I've seen, like, clips of him as Dong Mei, and I am like, how is this the same person?
100%.
Like, how? The actor had transformed himself, and I just cannot wait to see the role. So that's all I got to say about that. Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's round things out today with a book rec. And how about a book rec that is a doctor romance?
All right. So I think that I wanted to just really quickly recommend a book that many folks are probably aware of because it's also a super famous show as well as a super famous book, and that is Outlander. So it's a time-traveling historical opening in 1945 where we have Claire Randall, a former combat nurse back from World War II and reunited with her husband on a second honeymoon in Scotland, going through a standing stone circle and all of a sudden being, like, tossed back into 1743 when Scotland's being torn apart by war and raiding border clans. And so she falls in love with a gallant young Scot, James Fraser, and, you know, is such a snack in a kilt that she, you know, becomes torn between, like, staying faithful to her husband in, like, 1945 versus, like, her desire for this, like, delicious red-haired virgin in, like, the late 1700s. And, you know, she's a nurse that becomes a doctor over time in, like, the series. And so I feel like there's a lot of fun medical drama stuff that happens where, you know, she leans in hard to, like, having to do, like, she was a combat nurse in the war and then has to, like, you know, she's in, like, this wartime situation. So she's, like, trying to, like, boil stuff and, like, show how to do hygiene without, like, people burning her for being a witch, essentially, because she knows about, like, herbs and witch, you know, stuff that people felt like was a little witchy. And then, you know, she eventually becomes a doctor. And, yeah, it's a good series. It's got a fun medical twist to it, plus sexy Scots.
I like to end it on sexy Scots. That's a good one. On that note, we will round out this episode 1 of Hospital Playlist, and we will see you all next time for our second half of our deep dive.
Annyeong!
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Make sure to subscribe for more great K-romance conversation. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Afternoona Delight Podcast for more information on our podcast, behind-the-scenes photos, and, of course, pics of our favorite oppas and anis. Annyeong!